Hello, Kapil ji. My question is on habits, on the power of habits. I've just started my.
Hi. So my question is basically, so I feel like life inside me, but it just does not seem to care any bit about me or even anyone. The more I connect with it, it takes me in a sort of a direction where even I start questioning my existence. Like, I don't know how to like put words to it, but like, I don't know, there is practically no one I would even want to like talk about it in general. Like, and like it makes me question, like, even would I like, even do I exist? And like, it is like not my life, it is like, it is just.
Hello, doctor. Doctor, being human, can you can you tell us the minimum hours of sleep per day is a
Hello, Santa. This is the second time I met you. I have one question about this topic. I know that life is not what it seems, but what is when you're on your bed, like dead bed? What is the like? What is life is about? Like for yourself, I guess.
Hello, Siddha. How do I know if I am living a life of truth?
You know inside if someone is um, there isn't an objective measurement. Really, it is the sincerity that one can um, can feel within him.
Thank you for bringing me on here. Regarding your last note, my thought is, doesn't that just come down to being hyper aware of your thoughts? People lie to themselves all day long, and I think a part of that is you're living a lie or not. You don't see truth or understand it, but when you become hyper aware of your own thoughts, you're watching them all day, you're able to
No,
call.
the best way to answer that is if you do that and see what you get from that, and whatever you get from that, that'll give you the answer.
Is creativity spontaneous? Does best decisions or best form of art come from being spontaneous?
Does it mean? Hey, Dr. Gupta. Um, you've spoken before about not pursuing things just for the sake of the happy feeling or the pleasurable feeling that you get from pursuing them. What would then motivate someone to, devote their life or
Okay,
devote their
first of
energies?
all, I think that your question becomes invalid. And the reason is because you began with that I've spoken about not doing X. First of all, I've never said to anyone not to do X. That's what you extrapolated from it. I explained that if you do things for happiness, that you tend to fall flat on your face. I never said not to do it. And there's a miles and miles of difference between saying not to do it and explain what happens when you do. I don't care if you do it. So when you assume that I told you not to do it, then you're going to come back and ask me, since I told you not to do it, then what should I do? The whole question falls. The structure falls away. This is a common occurrence, and it is very, very prevalent to those who read my work and they prescriptionize my words. And it is very understandable because every single piece of writing and every single domain and every single book that one has read and every single podcast or lecture or speech that one has listened to, in every single element of one's life since they were born has been related to what should they do. It's all been related to prescriptions. There is no prescription-free element of this world. There isn't a prescription-free guru. There's not a prescription-free motivational speaker. There is not a prescription-free priest. There's not a prescription-free author. There is no one and nothing in the world today that is prescription-free. Therefore, since that is the conditioning of the human being, then naturally and logically so, when he comes to my work, he will do the same thing. What's the message? What should I be doing? And therefore, even if I explicitly say that there is nothing to do and that to do something will cause you problems, even then, they will view that as I told them not to do it. They will even view that as, well, you said no prescriptions. I never said no prescriptions. I've explained the harm of prescriptions and that one should investigate for themselves in their own lives and in their own experiences where they have gotten with prescriptions. And that will give them their own answer. It is not about taking my words and prescriptionizing them and believing them and using them as some sort of ideal or commandment. Because if one does that, then they will then depend upon me to give them the alternative as well.
What drug have you taken today? Are you on drugs today?
Hi, Siddha. I have a question. What is the meaning of life to you?
Hello, sir. Sir, my question is that what is it that one need to realize about greed?
Namaste. So, the words, the thoughts, the visuals we see in our day-to-day life. So, how do we stay out of it so that it doesn't affect our life anymore?
Hi, Dr. Gupta. Thank you for what you're doing and what you have done. I've realized that everything that I've done throughout my life is an attempt to make me feel better. And lately, what I've realized and began to understand is that I see myself and my thoughts outside, and I'm looking at them and I'm seeing them trying to lead me in different directions. And I've become very angry with my mind, and yet I'm still in my mind. And I don't know from where I'm looking and from where I'm seeing these thoughts outside of myself, but it feels much more at home and much more like me than the chases that I've been led on throughout my 50 plus years on earth. And I've become angry with my mind, and it's a very confusing place. And I just I've just began to realize slowly and slowly that my mind has led me astray, and it's not doing that, but I don't know what to trust. I don't know. I guess what I'm saying is I feel lost because I've only strengthened my mind. I've only trained my mind. I've only built it up with, as you call them, prescriptions. And now I see them out there, and they're not me. But I don't know. I don't know what to trust because that's all I've known. I'm not sure if there's a question.
No, there's not. That's all you've known. That's the conditioning. That is what society does to every human being. That is the danger of society. That is the danger of the world. It conditions and brainwashes human beings into becoming prescription chasers.
Hi, Siddha. Thank you for hosting this room. So, in my life, I've had maybe one major thing that I've been pursuing, and I think it was sincere. And I still feel that there is within that realm a thing that I greatly desire to work toward. But now the thing that I feel compelled to do is a thing that is in a different direction. And the way I see it, one is sort of a foundational thing. So the question is, in a sincere pursuit, can it be that sometimes the sincere path is the one that may seem rather indirect?
Well, there are no rules. There's no permission one way or the other. There's no ideal to live up to. There's no, is it okay if this happens or this happens, or can it sometimes look like this but actually is like that? And whether I say yes or no has no meaning.
Hey, hey, Siddha. I don't know who you are or what this room is about, but it looks like it's a selection process to get up here. So thank you for having me up here. Just a quick question. I noticed the room is life is not what one thinks. I'm just curious, what did you think life was, and what do you think it is now?
There was a talk at the beginning. You seem to have missed it, which is fine.
And thanks so much for taking my question. And thanks so much for your work. Um, I first came upon your work whenever a loved one was diagnosed with a terminal illness, and because of the random shock that put on me as an individual, like the visceral confusion, I started to be able to latch onto a lot more of the things you were saying with like related to how we can't even understand this life and how I guess my question is like, is this understanding that I've gotten from this, is that something that society beat out of me, or like is it something where like is what was the use of society beating this understanding out of me? Like why? W-
I don't know what society. I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about as to what society is doing. Everything society does is negative.
is
Society
the
did.
I'm sorry.
Well, what are you asking?
I'm asking because of the I basically the death caused me to go. Okay, this world has been complete confusion this entire time. And is that a glimpse? I guess I'm asking, is that a glimpse of the life that you're talking about that we're all kind of being prescriptioned away from?
Yeah, I still don't understand what you're asking. But if if a painful or a difficult time makes one search for understanding or for truth, um, then that's what it does for an individual, and oftentimes it does. Um, but it doesn't really matter how you categorize it. I mean, to say, well, is this what you're talking about? Who cares? I mean, it's about learning the truth. It's about discovering the truth behind all the facades that we see. And even when I say it's about, it doesn't mean that one should. But if one seems to have the seeds of that within him, and a difficult period in their life happens to reveal that, then it does.
Hey, Siddha, I just wanted to say thank you for, how do I say this without just showing up as you have so that I can interpret it in the way that I have, which then leaves me with no question at all, not at least for you.
Well, that's actually one of the most wise and um, sincere things that someone has explained and expressed And the reason for that is that there was a neutrality to it. When something is stated, it is everything. I want to take what you have said and springboard upon it, because I think that it's a point that is very, very fertile um, with wisdom. And that is that when any human being reads any work or listens to any person, um, some authoritative figure or whatever you want to call it, or they think them to be an authoritative figure, they're always listening with an ear for what to do. And the reason that they are listening for an ear with what to do is because the expressor of that information is giving what to do. And so um, that is what everyone has become. So therefore, there is no neutrality. Everything comes with ulterior motive. And ulterior motive isn't necessarily evil or bad or negative. It isn't. It isn't an evil ulterior motive to show up and say, "This is what I'm going to tell you to do this today, and then tomorrow do that, and then prescribe 5 steps." That isn't evil. It's just ineffective. But since that's what the world, as one of the previous listeners have stated, that's all they know. It's all the world ever knows. And there's never a neutrality. And what must be understood is this: when there is no neutrality, then there is no fertile soil upon which something can grow. Because if there's an ulterior motive from the individual who's teaching and giving prescriptions, that's his ulterior motive, and then the listener comes bringing his or her ulterior motive to gain the prescription. Then each one is looking for something specific. Therefore, neither in neither of their hearts can something true naturally grow out of a non-ulterior motive organic neutrality. And that's what you have just expressed.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Thanks.
Hi, Kapil. I've had the ability recently, because of your work, to disassociate myself from certain pleasure chases, such as certain attachments, because it was easy for me to see there was more misery and pain involved in that chase than pleasure. But I've found with addiction that pleasure, usually there's the pain that comes from coming down from the high of a pleasure when you do something like a drug, if you want to consider pleasure a drug. But I found with addiction that it's harder to give up, because it feels as if that pleasure, that low doesn't come because you continuously supply it with the high. So I asked for you to help me see um, the misery. Is it just opportunity cost of the fact that I'm doing this with my life as opposed to something else? The misery of addiction, or in specifically this pleasure chase. But I guess perhaps I'm just looking for prescriptions. So if I don't know if this is a sincere question, and I'm asking for prescription to stop being addicted, even though it's just a desire not to be addicted. So if you could shed some light, I'd appreciate it.
You have answered your own question.
With the shedding light.
Something new after reading your work. It's like one moment the mind plays its tricks or anything we call it, its game, and then the next minute I realize that I see what has been played or the trick that it just played. So it has been going on and off, and I wonder if it is just another pattern I'm setting for myself, like I've always done. Um,
Well, clearly,
what do you think?
it is not in your hands. So therefore, the question doesn't have any relevance.
Hello. Uh, in the movie The Last Samurai, which I thank you for recommending, I truly loved it. Katsumoto says that you could spend your entire life looking for a perfect blossom, and it would not be a wasted life. I don't think he's only describing the tree. So is he also talking about what you would call an arrival, or really owning the craft of becoming a master of the sword
You
or
know,
whatever.
wherever there is a devotion to something, it cannot be a wasted life. Good night.